More Than Gamers had a meteoric rise when it came to their promos and social media presence. It absolutely exploded. They've recently dropped and their price floor is currently sitting at around that 0.4 mark. There is crazy amounts of volume, crazy amounts of hype, and the project is about to reveal. Let's jump in and check out the post-drop pre-reveal stats. Now, what I will say really quick is that I'm not going to touch over what More Than Gamers is. I've actually done a video on it. You can check it out up here after you've watched this video, of course. Before we get into the statistics, we can get a snapshot on OpenSea of the project. We've got the floor price of essentially that 0.4, and we've got 7,000 owners of a 10,000 item project, which is a very good distribution. That 70% I like to see when it comes down to it. Having a look at the statistics, we're going to jump over onto Nance, and we can see that the project was deployed 4 days ago. Now, what we can notice here is that we've got the huge volume on the sort of pre-sale day and then the huge volume on the public sale day. Now, what we can also notice here is that we've got the average price runs up, it kind of dips back down to essentially the 0.35 mark, then it's kind of moving back up. Now, I just covered Psychedelics Anonymous, so I'm actually going to overlay the image of that price chart here. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to follow this exactly, but Psychedelics Anonymous is a day ahead of More Than Gamers when it comes down to their run. So what you can kind of see here is that there could be a potential for this to run up to around that 0.5 mark quite easily. Because saying that, the volume has been low, but the price has been running up. All we need is a little bit of volume when it comes down to More Than Gamers, and we can see that price run up to around that 0.5 mark. Now, when it comes down to the individual transactions, this might not look amazing because it's sort of pointing directly up, but what we're looking for is the trend. The fact that the trend is in a slight uptrend, that's what you want to see. And we can see this little bump here, which comes from a little bit of volume. That's why I'm confident that if some volume comes back into the market when it comes down to More Than Gamers, we can easily see a pump up to around that 0.5 mark. Now look, I keep touching on the volume, and the reason I say that if the volume comes back in, it can run up because the fact that the volume dropped and the price stayed quite flat is solid. So when the volume comes in, it should dip back up. If the volume dropped off and the price actually followed that trajectory of the volume, then I would be worried and I wouldn't have the same call. That's what I'm trying to say when I'm talking about volume coming back into the market. Now, when we have a look at the top balances, we can see here that the top balance has 100. Now, I believe that that is a marketing wallet or something like that because we can see here that they're just holding More Than Gamers. What I do believe is the fact that they had some Swampverse, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, and Oniforce. It's kind of gone in and gone out. So looking at that, it looks like that's one of the team, this is one of their old wallets, and this is what they're going to be having as a marketing wallet. So when we have a look at the top balance, ignore this top one. So the top balance would be 57, then we've got 54, and then we round out the sort of top 10 with 15. When we bump across, when we get to sort of 100 people, we can see that they're holding 5 or more. So we can see the distribution is quite healthy when it comes down to it because there's only a sort of a larger sum of people that are holding a big chunk, and then it tapers off very fast and then almost gets into a linear progression when it comes down to the holders of this project. When we have a look at the top balances over time, this is what you want to see, people just adding more to their collection. It shows that the top balance holders are bullish on this project. With smart money over time, we can't take anything away from this project because this chart is a little bit chaotic and messy. When we have a look at the unique addresses and the holders of this project, we can see here that sort of 95% of the NFTs have been held, have not been flipped or sold. And when it comes down to the amount of holders, sort of 7,131, it kind of peaked out at, and it's now sitting at around that sort of 7,040 mark. Having a look at the percentage only holding one NFT, we're around 78%, which is high, which is nice. This is where I'd like to see a project coming down to the distribution of holders, so essentially retail holders, because I believe that when there are a lot of retail holders in the project, they're less likely to sell. People that are only holding one, they're less likely to sell because then they're out of the project, and if they want to see the project through, they're less likely to sell their holdings, which mean that there's going to be less sort of supply on the market, meaning that if there is any demand, the price floor can go up. Having a look at the balance of diamond hands, we can see that around 9,200. So essentially 800 have been on the market and have been flipped, And when it comes down to the fact that there are a lot of people holding on and not wanting to sell, saying that that isn't an anomaly, that is fine, because we're getting to a point where we need to get the reveal done for people to then see what they've got, to then offload some of their more common items, or sort of exit the project essentially. Now, when it comes down to the profit leaderboard, this kind of blows my mind. What we can see here is that the top profit taker has only taken 2.86 ETH. Then the next one is sort of 0.9, and we round it out at 0.55. What this is showing me is it's showing me that we've had some retail people that have essentially gotten on the whitelist, have gotten in, minted, and sold. And then other than that, it looks like people are holding, because usually you'd want to see I would expect to see a profit leaderboard sitting at around sort of 10 to 3 ETH mark, especially with the amount of volume that this project has done. But the fact that I'm not seeing that shows a lot of strength and conviction from the holders of this project, and that they're not necessarily big flippers, and if they are flippers, they're small retail people that have gotten one and they've kind of essentially sold it for not too much profit. So this, to me, reading between the lines, goes that the people that are currently in this project want to hold it, and that adds more weight to the thesis of the price floor running up when a little bit of volume comes back into the market. When we have a look at the top 5 buying addresses, what we can see here is that we had this almost like a waterfall of purchases coming in down and then scooping up at just above that sort of 0.3, sort of around that 0.32 mark. Then we can see it kind of running up, dipping down again, and then again. So what this is saying is that if the floor price ever did get to a 0.3 mark, there's going to be people in there ready to scoop them up, which shows you that that's where a solid price floor would be coming in when it comes down to the top 5 buying addresses. When we have a look at the smart money and where they're buying it, we can see the minting price, we can see a bunch of 0.2s, but it's that same kind of deal. It's between that sort of 0.3 mark and 0.4 mark. There's this bar, this band here where they're purchasing. So it shows that if the price does get down to around that 0.3 mark, people are going to be scooping these up. Basically, what I'm saying here is that if the price was to run down and you could get one under 0.3, you would be getting in at a discount of where some of the sort of smart money and where some of the top 5 buying addresses are getting into. The way I like to look at this is that if you can buy at a discount from someone else, you've got more chance of riding it back up. If you're buying in at a higher price than someone else, you're essentially buying in at an all-time high when it comes down to their entry points, which could then mean that you're in a more compromising situation when it comes down to having to run this up. And that is more of a flip mentality. That's less of a sort of buy and hold mentality. Having a look at the recent transactions over a 1 hour period, we're getting around sort of 10 to 15 sales. What this means is it means that if we head over to OpenSea, an easy way to do this, you hit buy now, we run down sort of 15 sales and we get up to that 0.408 mark, run down another sort of 15 sales and we get to essentially a 0.42 mark. This means that it would need to take around 5 or 6 hours to get up a substantial amount, which means that if you are in this for a very quick flip, don't expect it within an hour unless a huge amount of volume comes through. Currently, where this is sitting, it's not running fast enough and the floor is thick enough that you're not going to be able to run up too much higher, too much faster. So this doesn't look like it's currently in a good flip mode. But saying that, if you're in this project to kind of hold long term, then that may be a good option because you can see that there is somewhat of a thick floor and you can kind of do a little bit more research and not have to worry about the price running up 2x over that hour or two that you kind of do that deep dive into the project. So overall, what do I think of Than Gamers looking at the price chart before the reveal? I think that where they are currently sitting, anytime there is a little bit of volume that kind of comes into the market, it boosts and runs up. I think that a little bit of good news, a good announcement comes out, and this could easily get to a 0.5 mark with the way that the kind of trajectory of the price, the average price is going. Saying that, this does look very similar to where Psychedelics Anonymous was kind of running, because that's running essentially a day ahead, and they had a very similar Twitter whitelist giveaway strategy. So saying that, I'm not saying that it's 100% going to run up, but saying that when I overlay that chart on top of this chart, we are kind of seeing a similar pattern when it comes down to it. So when it comes down to More Than Gamers, essentially the mint price was 0.2, and it's sitting at around double the mint price currently. The supply at around that 10,000 mark, even though it is sitting quite strong and there is a little bit of upside that could come into it with a little bit of volume, it could be a little bit precarious and a little bit rocky if the reveal drops before some major news comes into it and actually kind of boosts it up currently. Usually with a reveal, the price will drop essentially sort of 25%, maybe 50% on a bad case. There will be people coming to scoop it up. The fact that we're kind of sitting sort of double the mint price means that if it was to drop down sort of 25 to 50%, we will be at essentially the mint price, which could scare some retail investors. And I think the retail investors that have come into this project are expecting 100x gains within a day or two, and they're not seeing that, and they may get scared and kind of offload. Saying that, TFG has a big following, he's got a big presence, and he may be able to rally the troops essentially. We've seen it before with projects like Shiba Social Club and sort of Crypto Bulls Society, where people just want to hold on and it can just keep running up. People don't want to sell and it just keeps running, and that could be this mentality. But I can see some holders here being slightly skeptical with not getting their 10x gains and offloading when they kind of essentially get to a sort of a 3 or a 4x. And a 4x from the mint price is 0.8, which is quite large and a sizable chunk of money. But looking at the price charts though, it's sitting quite strong. And then also looking at the distribution of NFTs to holders is quite strong. But overall, will I be buying into More Than Gamers? What I'm actually going to do is keep an eye on it as the reveal happens. If it drops down and I can get one well under mint, then that looks like a great entry point and a good buy as a hedge on the future plans and aspects when it comes down to More Than Gamers. I currently would not buy in at double the mint price. Saying that would be across any of the board, because I don't want to buy in at double the mint before the reveal, because usually there is a pullback after the reveal. So overall, I hope you found value in this project and a deep dive into the post-drop pre-reveal stats. If you did find value in it, go down there, hit up that subscribe button, and while you're down there, also hit up that like button. It really helps me find out what you actually like in the content that I make, so I can produce more of that for you. As always, it's been a pleasure having you with me. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.